Okay. Welcome, everyone. This is 45RPENNS, episode 9. Number 9. The cat came back on the 9th life. 9 lives, right, of a cat. I'm here with Ernie Enns, and and it's Nigel Bart, and we're here talking about music collecting and everything in between. And so we're just like fumbling through the technology on our phones, trying to figure out how to get our podcasts out there. And we're trying to load the proper apps on Ernie's phone. Right now we have a few versions. We're now loading them on SoundCloud, and the previous versions are on YouTube. So if you look up 45RPNs, you'll find them there. Today I'm just feeling, it's kind of like blah, because, it's windy, it's cloudy, it's cold, and,
super windy.
Super windy. Yeah, like super
I saw
windy.
something. There's another thing I saw today that I've never seen before ever. Was one of these trailers that the guys pull with their pickups and stuff, the work trailers and stuff, laying on its side out in just a couple of miles out of
Really?
town. Yeah. So
Ooh.
it was windy
today. It was, so windy. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. That's
crazy, man.
I had never seen that before.
Yeah. Anyways, the other thing I was thinking was, this kind of weather is like, you got to be so like a generator almost to create the buzz or the vibes, and you are that kind of character, Ernie. Like when you come around, it's always like we laugh and we have a good time, and but a lot of people just carry themselves with like in this kind of weather with just sort of like just such like sadness and just kind of like, I don't know if you ever walk around in this kind of weather and just like realize how impactful the weather is on people.
Absolutely.
Especially farm community. Like
and wind even more than, cloudy. Like wind is just plain tiring on the soul,
totally.
so to speak. And crazy. But do you realize that today is Friday the 13th?
And that plays another part because, I'm a big psychology person, and I think that people are very superstitious in general.
I think
like
so
these
too.
days, especially.
Yeah.
And often people are a little bit extra cautious on Friday the 13th.
Yeah, and it's always they take it as a bad thing.
Yes.
And my mom, 13 was her lucky number. Everything with her was
nice, man.
Yeah, she loved the number 13. I don't know why. She said, but 13
well, I'm a
is 13
lucky man. Like
I
am.
You're 13?
Totally. I love 13, and I always get good luck on that day.
My daughter and her son-in-law, they live in Calgary. You know what floor? The 14th floor.
Because it is the 13th.
It's just one above the 12th floor.
Yeah.
So you get this, you get that, eh? Even the apartment blocks don't have
the
13 thing going on. So
it's I often think that people sabotage themselves a lot, like in general. Like we worry about
if something happens today, you could say, well, it was Friday the 13th, but that would have happened whether it was the 12th or the 11th.
Yes.
It would have still happened. So,
totally.
So I'm not superstitious, but it's fun to play with, right?
It is.
It's fun to play with these little superstitions and stuff. Like hockey players or all sports people, they do their little rituals always, that sort of thing, because they had a really good game where they had good luck with that the one time, and so they keep doing it, and so stick with what works, So it's fun to watch, but it really doesn't,
people take it overboard. They get really compulsive about these things, and it's like I see the unhealthy edge always in that. People are afraid to like break a tradition, and they worry about like stepping on cracks on the concrete, because step on a crack, you break your mother's back, because it's an old little thing. Well, but all these things,
you'd be in trouble in Manitoba, because
of course,
every piece of concrete in this province is cracked.
It's got potholes, man.
The frost we deal with and stuff, everything is cracked. So,
they're like black cats, man. Black cats crossing.
Black cats. There's another one. Yeah, superstition. Ooh.
But anyways,
The only thing good about Superstition is
the song.
Is the song that Stevie Wonder
I'm
wrote.
superstitious.
And you know, and if you watch him play
very
it, he
superstitious.
does all that guitar work he does on the piano,
I
the
know.
keyboard. And
Stevie Wonder's an epic.
He is a wonder, yeah.
Wonder. He's
a wonder,
so
man.
good.
He's a wonder boy.
Yeah.
So.
And there's another Superstition song, isn't there? Like, isn't that so? There's Stevie Wonder's version, but there's also a '70s version, isn't there? Like, or '60s or '70s. So.
Superstition.
Very super. That's
what Stevie Wonder.
We'll have to look it up after.
Yeah, I'm sure there is.
Yeah,
there is.
I thought it was.
It probably is. I just can't think of.
Maybe it's just me spreading rumors again.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, who died today?
Well, somebody has to.
Hey,
there's a rumor.
Who died today? Did okay? Here's a funny note. No, I won't go there. I was gonna say like someone important died in history today. Was it?
Oh, I don't know.
Like today they died.
Oh,
maybe it was.
I have not heard.
Maybe it was. I don't know. Was it the Queen? No, the Queen.
No.
I'm just.
Oh, okay.
I'm just randomly spreading rumors.
Oh yeah. Well, she's getting right up in years, so.
Yeah. No.
I'm not sure how long she's gonna last. But
she's back, is what my Apple. She's back. The Queen is back.
She's back.
It said something on my Apple.
So yeah, I don't know a whole lot about the monarchy. I'm not sure how important they are. I know there's a lot of people would say, you can't say that, but I really don't see the importance of them unless I don't understand it. But
yeah, and look at this news. It says on my phone. It says. So this is regarding the Queen. It says here. The Apple News catch-up. Supreme Court restores man's acquittal for attacking woman while high on magic mushrooms. And then it says, period. And the Queen returns. Like, what? There's no connection. This is Apple News. Like, how? It's like tabloid news. I don't know. It's foolish. Anyways, tossing the phone. Put that thing away.
Anyway, back to music.
Back to music.
Yeah, so the other day we spent a lot of time on Share the Land album.
Yeah.
Did we not?
Yeah.
And in the native guy on the front.
Yeah.
So I researched it a little bit and, and of course at first I think I said that they got him through central casting, whatever that means. A bunch of people come in and they decide that guy they're going to use. But that's not true because Burton Cummings was on an interview and he said, where is that now? I wonder how far back this is here. Where did I have that? I should have pulled it up earlier. I don't even know where it is now. I pulled it up and anyway, he did this. And that guy is the chief of the American Cherokee.
Wow.
Cherokee
Nation.
Yeah. And so he was definitely handpicked, and so it wasn't. I mean, I'm not sure what central casting means, but
yeah, it's a casting agency.
I could actually read this, but I don't even know where I pulled it up and I saved it. But since then, I've looked at so many things.
It's cool.
Really.
It's cool how, I mean, obviously that album had some specific relevance to the indigenous cause or situation or at the time, or even like the relevance would be, it's highly relevant is what I mean. If they choose a chief to be on the album cover,
yeah,
like there's something seriously good about the album because they're aligning sort of like in terms of that.
Well, he did say in that same, I should have read the whole interview and tried to retain it a little bit more. You got that. But yeah, and he said the Share the Land was the single biggest selling Guess Who album. And it's my own personal favorite. Like, I mean, American Woman album is really good.
Yeah.
That's when they're in their raw.
Yeah.
With Randy Bachman. And then Bachman left, and then, of course, Lescue and Winters comes in. And to me, that was the best lineup. But what do I know, right? It's just, a great album.
I think you're right. You have the best year.
Yeah.
I was
thinking,
thinking was that album is probably a little bit before its time, I'd say. You know, it's like
I
they,
don't know. I suppose, but it's
because
just
after all, everything sort of,
I don't know if it was before its time, but it was for sure right on time because all the music back then was so good, and this was as good or better.
yeah,
You're right.
thematically, I'm saying though,
Yeah,
thematically
yeah,
with the indigenous cause there, you know, like that's pretty good of them to pick that up
yeah.
and just to be so sort of like real about it and saying what's really going on. You know?
Yep, yep. And so I've been to a few Guess Who concerts over the years, and Share the Land is definitely that song that everybody, that lifts their used to be lighters and now cell phones, and that's the one that everybody
Yeah,
waves
yeah,
there. And so it's a very special song, and yeah, it's a great song. It's just
yeah,
plain a
yeah,
great
yeah,
song. And that was written by Cummings, of course.
yeah.
But I can't find that right up now anywhere. But it was just,
Yeah, don't worry about it. Well, you know what I was thinking.
I took a picture of it. I
Oh,
took a
cool.
picture of it. So I'll
Screenshot,
read
yeah.
what here it's. This is what it said in that interview. I took a little picture of that little section. It says, when asked how the band knew the Indigenous man on the album cover, they replied, central casting. In a 2016 interview with Relix, Burton Cummings was asked about the cover and stated, this is what Cummings said. Well, don't forget that the biggest single album of the Guess Who's career was Share the Land, which was the album that had the chief of the American Cherokees on the cover. So there you have it,
That's awesome, man.
right from Cummings, yeah. So
Yeah.
so he was the chief of the Americans,
Yeah.
Cherokees. So
That's cool.
that is cool, yeah. Yeah, but
It's and what I always think of sort of the indicators of success of like a song or a band, and it's often like an album that's really politically savvy or like ahead of its time that usually comes out as like a real hit. You know what I mean? Like,
you know, yeah, maybe you're onto something when you said it was ahead of its time because that whole theory of not theory but of Share the Land, like the all the treaty stuff that's coming of age and that sort of stuff was all kind of back there, and this song says Share the Land, like, and that sort of thing. So you're right, it was ahead of its time in the lyric part of it for sure.
yeah, and yeah, that's what I mean.
They're
Like
dealing
thematically,
with
yeah.
they're dealing with that stuff now.
Yeah, it's all coming down now.
Yeah.
And the other thing is like songs like the Beatles, for example, like how all of their songs are like they sort of have stood the test of time. Almost because they're highly appropriate and relevant to every decade, generation, like their lyrics and stuff.
Their lyrics are
And
just
I think most people, like when you hear a song that hits you, it's usually about something we feel strongly about, whether it's like war, love, religion, God, like something like that.
yeah.
So I think a lot of artists, not only music artists, like often the successful ones, just I'm throwing this out there, it's a little thought bubble, that sometimes like if you're as an artist, you're writing about like sort of fast cars and drinking whiskey and singing and whatever, those kinds of songs don't always last. But a song you're singing about like political, like living in hardship, like poverty, war, those kinds of songs last.
Yeah, they do.
So just a thought on.
Yeah, well, but on the other side of that coin too, musically, like you talked about Beatles, good writing, and it was, but musically, 50 years from now, okay, well, when this stuff came out by the Beatles, it is really 50 years, right?
I know.
So we said back then, or always, I've always said that in years to come, symphonies will still be doing Beatles songs. In
I
100
know, I
years,
know.
symphonies will still be doing Beatles songs. That's how good they were.
They were,
You know,
yeah.
they were the Mozarts and the Beethovens of this generation
Yeah, yeah.
because their music will stand the test of time.
It is true.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
mean, for the few little ditties that they wrote that don't really factor in maybe, but by and large, their music was just that good that symphonies play it now type thing.
Totally.
And speaking of the Beatles, we'll go back right to the beginning of this podcast. And this is number 9.
Yeah, I said 9.
Yeah, you said 9.
Lives
So,
of Cats.
yeah, now,
Yeah, episode number 9.
Number 9.
We're here in Carmen, Manitoba on Treaty 1 territory. So
Okay.
share the land, people. Share the land. And
number
here
9.
with-
Do you know the significance of number 9 when I say that? Number 9.
No.
Number 9. I was wondering if you did, because the Beatles on their White Album.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a trivia question for you. What is the real name of the Beatles White Album? What's the actual name of the album? The Beatles. That's the name of the
Yeah.
album. We call it the White Album
of
because
course, the White Album.
right.
The blank album.
But there's a song on there. It's a variation of Revolution. You know, so Revolution.
Yeah.
And on there, there's one, and it goes number 9, number 9, number 9,
Really?
number 9. He keeps saying
Well,
this
let's
on
talk
there.
about that song a bit.
Well, I don't know anything about it. All I know is that.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So
Number
I don't know
9.
if you have the White Album or not. I
I've
do.
heard that song. Actually, Iron Maiden does similar things. Like
I
it's
wonder.
like number instead. It might be the same clip they use. Number 9, number 9, and then this guy comes in and says, "I'm not a number. I'm a human being. I'm a free man." It's like from a
Oh.
clip of a movie or something.
I'm gonna listen to that song because
I'll play it after
it's-
for you.
Yeah, it's been like 50 years since I've listened to the Beatles' White. Well, I mean, some of the stuff on there, like I played in bands over the years, so you listen to that stuff. But the actual album, I probably haven't listened to in 50 years. But I just remember there's a song in there called Number 9, and it's called Revolution Number 9.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so-
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Like interesting information you
Yeah, it was
you
just,
have
it was just
stored.
nonsense, really, that they were doing, at least in my opinion.
I don't know
They're
so
such
much, yeah.
great songwriters, and they do stuff like that. And this is my opinion on, and you people listening to this may disagree, but the Beatles' White Album, like in other words, the Beatles album, should have been a single. Should have been a single album, not a double album, because there's a lot of good material on there, but there's a lot of not good material on there. But
Yeah.
it depends on what you like, right?
Yeah.
Type thing. So
Coming from a good musician, I'd say that's pretty accurate. Like
Yeah,
a lot of
it
people
should've
don't
been-
want to hear like sort of like the B songs,
you know, like
the B roll of anything. And honestly, like
back in the USSR and
Yeah.
Dear Prudence and songs like that, they're great songs. It could have been a single album.
yeah.
And
But I was thinking of this storytelling business and songwriting. Going back to there, like for a moment, just a quick moment. Sometimes I find stories are what build like society. Period. Like so stories, whether it's the biblical story of Jesus Christ or the stories of like the indigenous cultures of Turtle Island, which we live on, or the Islamic people, like they're all connected, but there's stories of stories that people like they're rich sort of like stories that about wisdom stories, and they're sort of in mythos status, like they're mythologies sort of that often we misunderstand all the time. Like you see how people like a lot of people misunderstand religions in general and say things like, well, for example, I was just talking about this in the office earlier about how people get sort of twisted up about misinterpreting band, for example. A lot of people say rock and roll is sort of like uh, sinful music, or like there is still a element of that, and
Yeah.
it's like there's certain things that don't always like. I mean, honestly, I think Jesus was probably a rocker himself. He's a rebel in many ways, like a rock,
Yeah, absolutely. He was a rebel. Yeah, he
and
was a
he's some
game changer.
game changer for sure.
And there's lots of bands out there that are game changers in the music industry. So, yeah, I do understand what you're saying. Yeah.
But where I'm going with that was not the point I wanted to end with. The point was that um, if we come back to telling stories, and that's what I think this podcast is really about, sharing stories, like your story and my story. Like, this is part of our conversation,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that uh, for people to understand, like, or take an interest not only in collecting, like the collecting and the collecting is awesome, and so is the music and everything. There, that's the framework. But it's like sometimes I wonder, you know, um, sometimes like I think our society these days is stripping down stories that are like sort of like anything that might in Canada shock people, and or like maybe make someone like not shock so much, but so where I'm going with this is that you know I think children, seniors, middle-aged people, folk need to sort of like um, remember those stories that we're raised with, and not try to just wipe it all out saying it's cancel culture. Get rid of our stories because they're inappropriate. Why do we do that? We have to remember our stories, what we're raised on. Your music is awesome,
Yeah.
but many people say this cancel culture is toxic because so many people coming out, they'll look at an album like a Beatles album, say, get rid of it, cancel it, because it's highly inappropriate. It says a word in there that inappropriate. It's like they say the word woman when it's like should be, like sort of things like that.
Yeah. It's yeah.
It's like a mind sort of drain, but this is what I'm saying. Like you're like a well-weathered, experienced guy. So am I a little bit. Like I'm getting there. But often we get challenged for listening to our music, AC/DC, my music. Well, AC/DC, or like, there's good music out there,
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah, like to me, AC/DC it's kind of dark music, but musically it's awesome.
of course,
Musically it's awesome. Like there's some great guitars in there and that sort of thing. And
yeah. But like things
but
get tainted
yeah.
by like some like cancel culture. Like, I love the music of Michael Jackson. I love it. Like he's so good. But then it's suddenly he was tainted by that whole like fame blast that he took it in the late 90s
He didn't weather very well.
No,
through
but
fame and fortune.
no, but he was like an
Yeah.
exceptional musician.
Yeah. Yeah, I
But
loved his.
but I think people
loved his
should
early
keep
stuff.
religion separate from music,
Yeah.
separate from politics.
Yeah.
Keep it all separate, because in the end, I'll stop after this. I'll zip it. Because in the end, man,
Yeah.
you mix too many potions, and the politicians will say we can't have that kind of music. It's inappropriate. It's impolitically correct. The priests and the deacons and everyone else will say we can't have that kind of politics in place because it doesn't believe it's atheist, agnostic. It does not follow God. And the musicians will just say, well, we can't have any politics or like, so you can't mix them. They're like oil and water. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, music is a strong tool in a lot of ways, like you say, religiously, or like in the churches, or in politics, or whatever. Music has always been a part of. Mind you, music is a part of everything. Like, really, you can't even
Yeah,
have an ad on TV without music in it. You know,
I
really.
know, I know, I
And
know.
if you have a something sports going on, they play music throughout the whole thing. They
Yeah,
start the thing out with music, and so music is way bigger part of our lives than we realize.
it's
So
integrated,
it's integrated into everything. Yeah.
and including
Mm.
speaking of a story with politicians who use music and art, stole like misappropriated that stuff.
Oh.
Who do you think that would be in a sort of an unhealthy way? Like a big politician who misappropriated art and made it sort of like did something wrong with it. He used music and religion tied together, and he kind of blasted. He kind of almost sunk the world. Do
Oh.
you remember that
No,
politician?
no, I don't.
Hitler. Adolf Hitler did that. Like
Oh.
he was
Oh.
wildly he wanted to be an artist, and then he spun his art passion with
Oh.
with like crazy religious delusions, and
Oh.
just like
You know,
nearly sunk the
yeah.
world. So speaking of, this is the reason I like to keep things separate. Like music is awesome,
Yeah.
and so, but in terms of this great, like you can sing songs about religion, not a problem.
Mm.
But if religious folk try to cancel out music, or if music folk try to cancel out politics, no. Like
Yeah.
everything has integrity.
Yeah.
Um, like even craftsmen, like
Yeah, oh, yeah.
have integrity. Like artists always get bashed, is what I'm saying.
No.
Like we get bashed for being different, or
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
less
yeah.
than.
Just talking about politics and music, and so just something that comes back.
Everything
to
in
me.
between.
And everything in between. But that same interview that they did with Bert Cummings,
Yeah.
just get back to that same thing. He talked about politics and music together, like, and he said when the CRTC, this might be way different than what track we were on, right?
Yeah,
But the
that's so good.
CRTC, you know, Canadian Television, Radio, Communications, or whatever it means, passed that law. What you had to do, I think it was, I said 30%, and he said, Bert Cummings said 25%. So anyway, he's probably right.
Yeah.
So he said 25% had to be any Canadian content, and he said he was ticked at that law. He says we don't need help. We're a good enough band. We don't need help. And
Yeah.
he says, and that's how he felt about it. He says, but later, a few years later, all of a sudden, I realized how that important that law was for us,
Yeah.
because our music, he said, stayed on the radio, and he said we made a good living because of it. So he says I'm very thankful for that law that
Totally,
the government
man,
put in.
totally.
So they stuck their nose into something they had no business doing.
That like legally copyright issues are a different thing
Yeah.
than different
Yeah.
I like there's certain reasons there that laws are made to protect people. Like that's why government is there, to protect its people, including artists, but not to ever tarnish or like sabotage artists for saying things that might be prophetic or like challenge.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's a scary
Well, the
stuff.
government is consistently does it, and I hope there's politicians out there listening to this, because the government had always. Why do they pass laws and stuff? To help people, right?
Yeah.
And so they do. They help people. And once they've gone 50% of what they're going to do, stop.
Yeah.
Stop right there.
Yeah.
You have done your job. Thank you very much. But they don't. And consistently, 100% of the time, they go another 50% and they screw it all up because they go way too far. It's like a pendulum. It's like a pendulum. Like they stop here when you get to the bottom. They don't. They just keep on going.
I
and
know, so
screw it
true,
all up.
man, so
and
true.
so, you know, that's one of my pet peeves is the government
Of course,
goes
man.
too far.
Yeah,
Everything
I
that
agree.
they do.
I agree, man.
And I'm not sure why that happens.
Well, I think it's a little bit of the
Yeah.
corrupt nature of like getting power and just wanting to stay in power. You want to like prove your point.
If it has to do with the government, it has to do with money. There's money tied into it, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, it is true.
But anyway, let's get back.
Speaking of, I don't know if there is any getting back. We've gone to the deep zone of the Twilight Zone.
I know.
So we got 30 minutes. There is time here, Ernie, to go back.
Yeah.
I got a frog in my throat.
We can redeem ourselves.
ribbit. Segue point.
Yeah. Gotta get back into the music.
Watch this. You'll pull an album. It'd be highly political or religious. Pull one. Just pull one. Random pull.
Let's pull that.
Oh, you look, buddy.
I know. I look.
Okay. All right. Wanted. The Boss Bunch for trafficking in golden goodies. CFRW 1470 Boss Gold.
Do you know how rare that album is?
That's awesome, man.
Very, very rare. So here's an album, and because we don't have any video going, I'll have to explain it. But this is an album from back in the day when this is probably from. I wonder if it has a date on it. It's got to be early 70s that they released this. I'm not sure. What does it say here? Released. So yeah, it'll be early 70s because I kind of remember these DJs from middle 70s maybe in Winnipeg. And speaking of Winnipeg DJs, something that probably nobody listening knows that American Bandstand. What was the guy's name? What was his name? What was his name?
Yeah. Big.
What was his name? I forget his name.
Bob Barker. No, it's like a Bob Barker's kind of character. He was. What was it? You know how he talked. He sort of had a little bit of a
American Bandstand. Dick Clark.
Dick Clark. Yeah.
Okay. That's the name I'm trying to think of. Dick Clark. I'm just gonna deviate from this album a little bit.
Hold on. Let me explain what we're looking at. We're looking at an album, a compilation album here of like a whole bunch of radio DJs picking their. And what year was this? So it's a compilation album of songs.
Well, I'm guessing middle 70s somewhere because in the middle 70s I live in Winnipeg and I remember all these names like Bobby Brannigan. Chuck Morgan, of course, everybody knows Chuck because he went over to CKY later, and James Milligan, J.J. Jeffrey, Johnny McGinnis, Mike Rivers. He was the evening guy. I loved Mike Rivers, and Rodney Chandler. He went over to CJOB and became a talk guy. And Daryl Provo.
So what we're looking at here is like it's sort of like a compilation album, like sort of like the in modern day terms it would be like sort of like the much music best of or whatever, you know.
Yeah, well, the album itself, like musically, they just have a bunch of songs from the 50s and 60s, Stagger Lee and Sealed with a Kiss and Who Put the Bomb and At the Hop and Guitar Boogie Shuffle, Sheila by Tommy Rowe, so Pretty Blue Eyes, and so it's just a compilation of songs. But the cool thing is I got pictures of all these DJs that I remember personally, type thing. But I was going to mention Dick Clark.
Yeah.
Nobody knows this, but Dick Clark was a Winnipeg DJ.
That's wild.
For maybe 2 weeks. It wasn't very long. Because being a collector of the radio charts on CKR, he worked on CKRC. And if you go through those, I had to look and try to find it. But if I go through there, you can see a picture of him, and he's pictured on there I forget exactly what year it was, 62 or 63 or something like that.
That's pretty cool.
He was in Winnipeg, and he was a DJ, so. Yeah, so.
That is a claim to fame, because Bob Clark, that's right. Dick Clark.
Yeah.
Oh. Dick Clark was like, he was big. Didn't he do the countdown on New Year's? The New Year's countdown?
Yeah, he was, What
was that program called? His Top 100 or? Like
that was
the
always American Bandstand.
American Bandstand.
And he had live bands on there. And so if you, it was like the Lawrence Welk show. Like if you made it to, not Lawrence Welk, good grief, Ed Sullivan.
Ed Sullivan.
Ed Sullivan. It was kind of like the early, you know, the pre Ed Sullivan American Bandstand. If you made it onto American Bandstand, you made it big. You know, it's like you won the lottery or whatever. So it was big stuff, and it was Dick Clark. And so why he was in Winnipeg for 2 weeks, I have no idea. But
he was working here, and then he got fired because he was too progressive.
I mean, we were talking about starting rumors, right? Start that one. So.
Okay, so what else do we have?
So here? I just pulled out another album. This is Vigrass and Osborne, and so there's a song on there called Virginia. And I have a story about this particular song, and then which led to this album. And there's really cool stuff in there. Like I've listened to the album itself, and they're kind of like I don't know. They sound almost a little bit like Crosby, Stills and stuff like that. Like they have that really nice sound to them. But the story about that particular song, Virginia, and when the song was on radio, and it's a really cool song. When the song was on radio, I thought it was called Virginia Be Strong. Oh, look at that. It's a triple
fold. Triple fold.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's beautiful. It's a train.
It is beautiful album. Look at that. Look at the album cover. Uni Records.
Very nice.
Yeah, Vigrass and Osborne. And if you look on here, so their names were Paul Vigrass and Gary Osborne, and they both went on to do other things. And I can't remember what it is, but there's a song in here called Virginia right there. And so I heard the song Virginia Be Strong when I was probably this song is from 71 or 72 or whenever it's from, maybe 73. I'm not sure exactly what year.
Okay, sing it a little bit so I can pick it out.
Virginia Be Strong, and then it had, I don't know, I've been traveling a long, long time. I forget the lyrics or whatever. If I listen to the song,
I know it. I know it now.
Do you know that song?
Yeah, I just have to listen to you sing a little bit longer. I know we can't play the original album, but that's our new technique. Ernie will sing them.
I'll have to bring your guitar.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah. Anyway, I heard this song when I was in my maybe middle teens or early teens. Virginia Be Strong, and it came and left on radio, just like all these 45s that we've been talking about. And so this is one of them. So anyway, I looked for it for years and years, and so decades later, I'm going to all these record shows, and I want to know, you know, the song Virginia Be Strong. And I always ask these record guys, and get the same thing all the time. But the one record show in particular, and I think I've talked about this guy before, but I said to the guy, yeah, I'm looking for a song. Like I pull up my list, and Virginia Be Strong. And he says to me, and this guy is a heavy metal guy only. Oop. And he says to me, I might have that on a cassette somewhere. He said, just like that.
Oh, wow.
And I said, really? Yeah. He says, because he says he had a music collection, and he sold it all and went strictly into heavy metal.
Really?
Right into heavy metal, so he got rid of everything else. But he taped it all. He kept it all. So this record, I guess he had, and he taped that song. And I said, Virginia Be Strong. And he says, I think I have it. I didn't know it was called Virginia at the time. So he said, I think I have it. So it was like, okay, well, great. That was awesome. But you know, nothing's going to come of it, right? And he said, call me. Give me a call. And I'll check at home, see if I have it. And so I phoned him when I was in at my wife's brother's place in Winnipeg. It was somewhere in East Caldona, they live. So I was at his place doing some work, and I thought, I'm going to give Darcy a call. That was his name. I'm going to give Darcy a call, see if he's found that cassette. So I phoned him, and I told him who I was. And, oh, yeah, Ernie from the record show. He says, you know, I researched it, and he says, is this the song? And he says, he went over, got the cassette, he put it in, he played it over the phone like this. This is back before we had cell phones, right? And so this is 20 years ago. So he played it. And I'm on the phone like this, I'm listening, it's like, that's it.
Oh.
That's it. That's the song. And I said, Darcy, that's it. He said, can I get a copy of that and whatever? And he says, yeah, I can make a copy for you or whatever. But all I didn't need the copy of that song. All I needed was him to tell me the song is called Virginia, not Virginia Be Strong, and it's done by Ryegrass and Osborne. And as soon as I had that information, I found the record at the record show.
Wow.
And I got it. So thank you, Darcy, if you're listening to this. And so, and he's remained a friend of mine over the years. Like I've been to his place and that sort of thing. So yeah. Cool. So it was just really good, really nice to have that experience, to hear it on the phone for the first time, and for the first time in
many
years.
people have said that how music is such a universal language. Like you can talk music with anyone and they understand it. Like play music, talk music. If you're a music person, or like music just
transcends everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was gonna say translates, but transcends everything.
Yeah. All years, all ages, all genres, all styles. Yeah. Yeah.
So here we go. We're gonna wind her up. We got through
and look at this album.
2 albums today.
Look at the artwork on
It's
this thing.
beautiful. Like that album it feels like vinyl. Like the album, like it's that nice thick cover.
It's thick and it has that real paper feel to it, like a I don't know how to explain it, but
it's like you got a plastic coat almost.
Like you could frame this and put it on your wall.
Oh, absolutely,
It's just gorgeous, and albums are exactly that. They're not only musical art; they're just the whole thing collectively is a piece of art. Yeah. This one is a very good example of that.
It's artwork.
Yeah, and these guys are out of, I believe they're out of Quebec.
Huh, wow.
Seems to me. And it gives all kinds of credits on here, but great album, and I've listened to it. It was recorded in California. Universal in California, Park in New York,
London.
Jeff Wayne Music, London. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think these guys are Canadian. Like I should know this stuff better, but I've had these records for decades and decades, and you almost kind of forget the stories.
I wanted.
72.
Yeah. 72.
1972. So.
Ernie, we're gonna wind her up.
Okay.
And speaking of this passion and energy that comes when we look at these beautiful artworks of albums, and then the energy of self sort of generating energy, like talking about music, I'm ready to go home and listen to my albums again. Yes. After though, sometimes you get sort of like the wind. I've been really windy in the head lately, just because this wind, like it's just been whipping here and there. So if you probably pick up how much wind is ripping in my head because of the wind.
It's so annoying.
But for this purpose, I would go home and listen to some wonderful music tonight, and I hope our audience listeners will pick up one of these albums, and I hope you heard some of these, maybe something that Ernie said sparked a little interest. Maybe you were hunting for one of those albums.
Well, Beatles White would be a great one to listen to.
Yeah,
or an evening.
Yeah, and if our audience there wants to reach out to either me or Ernie on this, send us a comment, drop us a comment, and direct message or drop it in a comment, and we'll get to you. The whole purpose of this podcast, I'd say, is their big purpose is to connect. connect with people and connect to the outside world.
Yeah,
So
and to find that guy that likes the same
there
record.
is someone out there
that likes the same records.
and you know there is someone you're listening right now, probably,
Yeah.
and I totally know you're listening and you want that album. Peace out, guys. That's the end.
All right, take
45
care.
minutes.